All right, naming molecules, finding the cation, the anion, the formula from a name, all that kind of good stuff. So the first thing I see is magnesium. That is from the periodic table, from its position, I can see it's a +2, so that's my cation. Carbonate, it does not end in IDE, so that must mean it's a polyatomic ion. Hopefully I have these memorized, but if not, I can check my cheat sheet for now and see it's CO3 2-. When I put those two ions together to make a neutral molecule, it's MgCO3, one of each. All right, next up I have strontium, which is a 2+. I found that on the periodic table. Chlorine, also on the periodic table, it's a 1-. And so I can see that to put those together in a molecule, it would be SrCl2. The name would just be strontium, and then chlorine with an IDE ending, so strontium chloride. All right, next up I have iron 3+ and NO2-. So I have to put 3 of the NO2s in order to make that neutral. When I name something with a transition metal, remember I put the charge as a Roman numeral. So this is iron 3, and then NO2 is nitrite. So iron 3 nitrite. All right, manganese is another transition metal. It's Mn, and from the Roman numeral 2, I know it's 2+. Chlorine from the periodic table, I know is Cl-. Putting those together as a neutral molecule, I would need 2 chlorines for every 1 manganese. All right, Sn. All right, we'll start with bromine. Bromine is a halogen. That one is easier. The Sn must be a 4+ because there's 4 of the -1s. Maybe I can't tell that from the periodic table. In fact, this is one, even though it's not technically a transition metal, that we often include a Roman numeral for because it could have multiple charges. So tin for bromide. Okay, I've got cobalt 2+ and phosphate 3-. That's a polyatomic ion. So cobalt, include the Roman numeral charge, and then phosphate. So cobalt 2 phosphate. And then when I make the formula to make it neutral, I would need 3 of the cobalts and 2 of the phosphates. All right, mercury, this is kind of a strange one. This is like 2 mercuries bonded together, and together they have a 2+ charge. It's just a weird thing that mercury does. Each mercury then must be a +1. But when they're alone, they stick together. So anyhow, so when I write it, it's mercury 1 iodide. Right, they stick together, so they have 2 of each to make it a neutral molecule. That's a tricky one. Okay, let's go back to a more straightforward one. Here's copper and carbonate. Copper is a transition metal. I can figure out the charge of this copper by the fact that carbonate is a -2, and there's 2 coppers. It means it must have been a +1. So then when I write it, it's copper, Roman numeral 1, carbonate. All right, lithium nitride. Nitride, IDE, means it's from the periodic table. It's nitrogen, which is in the -3 column. Lithium is a +1. So Li3N. And then finally, aluminum is a +3. Sulfur is a -2. So to put those in neutral, it would be aluminum 2, sulfur 3. And the name is just aluminum sulfide. Remember, those subscripts do not show up in the name.